Activate crowd control.
In the overcrowded pantheon of comic book adaptations, where capes flutter and quips fly like confetti, Dredd 2012 stands as a rare beast. A film that doesn't just nod to its source material, but practically handcuffs it to the screen with cold, steely intent. Directed by Pete Travis and penned by Alex Garland, this lean, mean sci-fi bruiser drags Judge Dredd, 2000 AD's granite-jawed lawman, birthed by John Wagner and Carlos Esquerra, back into the spotlight, sans the Stallone-era spandex and smirks of 1995.
Wouldn't it feel good to have an emotion once in a while, huh?
Emotions. There ought to be a law against them.
Gone is the campy bombast. In its place, a day-in-the-life dystopian slugfest that's less about saving the world and more about surviving one hellish tower block. Released on September the 7th, 2012 in the UK, and limping into the US 2 weeks later, Dredd swaggered in like a rookie judge facing a firing squad of summer blockbusters. Think The Dark Knight Rises brooding in cinemas, The Avengers still flexing its billion-dollar biceps, and Resident Evil Retribution, nicking the 3D specs crowd. An underdog with a lawgiver. It was outgunned, underfunded and overlooked, carrying the baggage of its predecessors' neon-stained sins. Yet like a stubborn criminal refusing to go quietly, Dredd has clawed its way to cult status, lauded for its unflinching violence, suffocating atmosphere and a loyalty to the comics that borders on obsessive. This retrospective digs into its production, score, plot, cast, themes and legacy, peeling back the helmet, figuratively of course, on a triumph of genre resolve, one that proves you don't need a $200 million budget to deliver justice, though a better release date might have helped. For all its brilliance though, let's not kid ourselves. It's a film so committed to its niche that it occasionally forgets the rest of us might have fancied a seat at the table, or at least a heads up before the bullets start flying. Bringing Dredd to life was less a Hollywood fairy tale, and more a scrappy brawl in a back alley, kicked off in the late 2000s by DNA Films with producer Andrew McDonald and comic nerd-in-chief Alex Garland at the helm. This reboot aimed to scrub the Stallone stench off Judge Dredd and give him a proper snarl. Garland's script didn't faff about. Out went the 1995 excesses. In came a Dredd who'd rather shoot than soliloquize.
Release the hostage, unharmed, and I guarantee you a sentence of life in an ISO cube without parole. Dead. Hot shot.
Early drafts even teased a cameo from the Dark Judges, ghoulish undead enforcers who'd have snarled, "The crime is life," in a chilling counterpoint to Dredd's justice, but they were axed to keep things tight, a sequel bait left dangling. Pete Travis, Vantage Point, signed on to direct, though whispers of a Garland-led coup in the editing bay suggest the writer might have been the real judge in charge. Travis just nodded and took the credit. Duncan Jones, Moon's maestro, and David Bowie's lad nearly nabbed the gig but passed, fancying a weirder cosmic spin that didn't fit the brief. Imagine a Ziggy Stardust Mega City 1. Dodged or missed, depending on your bent. Shot in Johannesburg and Cape Town, the team turned South Africa's concrete jungles into Mega City 1's grim sprawl, all on a $50 million budget that wouldn't buy Tony Stark a spare suit. Filming in 3D, no lazy post-conversion here gave the slow-mo sequences a trippy punch, courtesy of cinematographer Anthony Dodd Mantle's knack for making grime look gorgeous. Though by 2012, punters were knackered with 3D specs and dim screens, and Dredd's all-in 3D gamble sank its box office faster than Marmar's Goons sank back up. Practical effects kept the blood real. Dredd's Lawgiver, a souped-up Glock 17 with futuristic flair, was a working prop. Its comic-accurate DNA coding a nod to the law where it'd blow up in the thief's hand. That helmet, permanently welded to Karl Urban's head, waved two fingers at studio suits begging for a friendlier face-showing cut. Pedro Pascal, please take note. And they stuck to their R-rated guns, delivering a film so true to the comics it might as well have been inked in black and white. Noble? Sure, but chucking it into September's blockbuster meat grind was like sending a judge to a gang war with a spoon. Ballsy, if it had naive. Paul Leonard Morgan's score for Dredd doesn't just accompany the film. It grabs you by the throat and drags you into Mega City 1's sonic sewer. Industrial beats and techno growls churn like the city's underbelly, relentless and raw, with nary a violin in sight to soften the blow. The real genius hits in the slow-mo scenes where time slows and the music flips to eerie, warped choral vibes. Apparently inspired by Justin Bieber track Garland mangled in post. Yes, you heard that right. Biebs indirectly scored a dystopian bloodbath. A fact so mad it's almost brilliant. Mega City 1 thumps with the weight of a collapsing skyline, while You Are the Law stalks along like Dredd himself. Minimal, menacing, and not here to natter. It's a soundscape that doesn't so much enhance the visuals as arm wrestle them into submission, perfectly tuned to the film's brutal pulse. Dredd drops us into Mega City 1, a post-apocalyptic sprawl from Boston to DC, where 800 million souls fester in crime-soaked misery. Enter Judge Dredd, Karl Urban, the Justice Department's one-man legal system, copper, judge, jury, executioner, and occasional interior designer of bullet-riddled walls. He's lumbered with rookie Cassandra Anderson, Olivia Thirlby, a psychic mutant who cocked up the judge exams but gets a pity pass for her mind-reading tricks. The day starts with a routine triple homicide call at Peachtree's, a 200-storey slum ruled by Mama, Lena Headley, a drug lord Scarface with a penchant for slow-mo, a narcotic that turns reality into a glittery crawl. Mama locks the tower down, six her goons on the judges, and what follows is a vertical gauntlet of gore. Think The Raid with less kung fu and more guilty verdicts. Dredd shot first but lagged in post-production, with all those slow-mo VFX shots letting The Raid nick the thunder earlier in a cosmic cock-up or great mind sinking, take your pick. It's a simple setup, climb, shoot, repeat, until Dredd and Anderson face off with Mama in a finale that's less climax, more inevitable smackdown. The plots are taut wire, snapping with tension, but never bending for backstory or chit-chat. Efficient, sure, but maybe too stingy with world-building for those not already fluent in 2000 AD. The film ends with Dredd's justice served, but the story didn't stop there. A 2014-2000 AD one-shot, Dredd, Underbelly, picks up the thread, with Dredd and Anderson chasing a slow-mo mutant trade. It's a gritty epilogue most missed. A hint the tower was just the start of their beat. If only the studios had cared to keep the cameras rolling. Karl Urban's Dredd is a walking slab of justice, all gravel voice and helmeted glare, refusing to show his face like a bloke who knows charisma's overrated when you've got a gun. He's a proper 2000 AD nut, fighting Travis tooth and nail to keep the helmet on, when the director pushed for a barefaced scene. Urban dug in, citing the comic's faceless enigma as gospel, and even roared through Lawmaster bike stunts himself. It's a far cry from Stallone's mugging, and Urban nails the comic's stoic vibe. Subtlety sneaks in through a twitch of jaw or a tilt of head, proving he's more than Triggerfinger. Olivia Thirlby's Anderson is the heart we didn't ask for, a wide-eyed psychic who grows claws by the end, balancing grit with a flicker of mercy Dredd wouldn't waste ammo on. She dyed her locks blonde and we did her roots every 9 days to nail that PSI Division bob, a commitment that's pure class. Then there's Lena Headley as Mama, a feral queen who'd make Cersei Lannister flinch. Scarred, silent, and so vicious you'd swear she eats henchmen for breakfast. She brought her own tattoos to the role, convincing Garland to ditch the script's old crone for a middle-aged menace, her ink a badge of her past. Wood Harris and Dom Hall Gleeson round out the crew with solid turns as a thug and a nerd, but this trio owns it, their chemistry a Molotov cocktail of menace and moxie. Still, Urban's helmet fetish might have robbed us of a smirk or two, but justice is blind. Dredd isn't just a shoot-'em-up, it's a grim mirror held up to justice, morality, survival, and the seductive lie of escapism, all smeared with blood and concrete dust. At its heart is Mega City 1, a rotting behemoth, stretching from Boston to DC, a place so overstuffed with humanity it's one riot away from eating itself alive. It's less a city, more a cautionary tale, urban sprawl gone feral, where law's a thin thread and chaos is the default. Dredd stomps through it like justice incarnate, a walking verdict machine who doesn't blink, doesn't bend, and sure as hell doesn't negotiate. He's a law distilled to a bullet, swift, impartial and final, dishing out sentences with the warmth of a guillotine. But here's the rub. Is he the cure, or the cancer? He's no Cape Crusader saving kittens from trees, he's a blunt instrument, hammering order into a world that's forgotten what it looks like. The film doesn't spoon-feed answers, just lets him blast away while you ponder if this unyielding order's worth the body count. or if it's just propping up a system too knackered to fix itself. It's a tension Dredd toys with but never quite wrestles to the ground, leaving you to decide if he's the last bastion on the first domino. Then there's Anderson, the rookie with a psychic twist, peering into skulls and seeing the messy humans inside. She's the film's lone pulse of compassion, a crack of light in the gloom. Her choice to spare a lowlife isn't just mercy, it's defiance, a quiet, maybe not everyone's guilty, in a world where Dredd's Lawgiver says otherwise. It's not soppy, she's still got blood on her hands, but her arc suggests there's room for judgment beyond the trigger. It's subtle, raw, and the closest Dredd gets to her heart. Contrast that with Mama, the scarred queen of peach trees, whose survival turned savage. She's no cartoon baddie twirling a moustache, she's what happens when the city's meat grinder spits you out, and you claw back to the top, one corpse at a time. Her rise from prey to predator mirrors Megacity 1's own brutality, twisted Darwinism, where power's the only currency and weakness gets you a one-wage drop from the 200th floor. Hedy plays her with a stillness that's pure menace, a woman who's seen the bottom and decided the top's only worth having if it's soaked in blood. She's not evil for kicks, she's a product, a survivor who's learnt the city's lesson: eat or be eaten. It's a dark reflection of Dredd's own relentlessness, two sides of the same coin. He enforces the law, she breaks it, but both are shaped by a world that doesn't give a toss about second chances. Slow-mo ties it all together, a drug that slows time to a shimmering crawl, turning the grey grind into a kaleidoscope of fleeting beauty. It's escapism weaponised. Users don't just get high, they get front row seat to a world that's briefly falsely transcendent. The film's visual flair peaks here, with Dodd Mantle's slow-motion shots of glass shattering or blood arcing like liquid art, a stark foil to the grimy towers. It's a lure and a trap, a promise of relief that ends in the same old dirt. Symbolic as hell, sure, but also a sly jab at the audience. Aren't we all chasing a slow-mo hit, watching this carnage for a thrill? It's the city's ultimate con, a glimmer of hope that's just another cage, and it threads through every theme. Dredd's justice as a false fix, Anderson's mercy as a fleeting dream, Mama's power as a hollow crown. The interplay's rich, Dredd's rigid law versus Anderson's fragile hope, Mama's domination versus Slow-mo's delusion, all swirling in a city that's both judge and executioner. Yet, for all its thematic heft, Dredd's so busy reloading it sometimes forgets to linger on these questions, firing past the meaty why for another headshot how. It's a thinker that doesn't always think aloud. Brilliant, brutal, but still in its own blood-soaked bubble. With a measly 41 million haul against its 50 million tab, Dredd didn't so much bomb as politely excuse itself from the box office party. Yet, like a ne'er-do-well dodging the nick, it's since stormed back via Blu-ray bins and fanboy fervour, earning cult stripes and a sequel-hungry mob. John Wagner called it the real deal, and its lean DNA has sparked chatter about comic films that don't need Avengers-sized wallets. Petitions, campaigns, and whispers of a Mega City 1 series tease more, though, as of March 2025, it's still just Urban growling, "I'd do it!" into the void. It's a legacy of defiance, proof fidelity and guts can outlast opening weekend flops, bolstered by Underbelly's comic nod. But let's not oversell it. For every fan chanting its praises, there's a casual viewer who missed it entirely, thanks to a release slot that screamed, "Please ignore me." This is a steel-toed anomaly, comic flick that doesn't pander, doesn't bloat, and doesn't apologise. Its throbbing score, taut plot, killer cast, meaty themes, and scrappy afterlife pulled your beast as unyielding as its helmeted enforcer. In a superhero sprawl of CGI orgies, it's a lone wolf, serving justice with a glare and a bullet. It's focused storytelling at its fiercest, a reminder that cold dishes can definitely satisfy, even if this one occasionally forgets to pass the salt to anyone not already in the choir. But still, I highly recommend.